What's up, guys? In today's video, we're jumping right into it. We got the Dolphin Glaze, end of the body filler saga. We're gonna clean everything up, lay down some primer, and we're gonna throw down that seam sealer. And if you want a good laugh, make sure you stick around to the end of the video where you can see the horrible mistake I made with that seam sealer. We're done with the Rage Ultra body filler. Now it's time to move on to the Dolphin finishing glaze. Quick little tour for anyone that's thinking about doing this project in the future. This area here was rough when I was welding because the metal is very thin, and over time it even got thinner. Caused a lot of little holes. When I was welding, it'd burn through. The small hole would turn big. I added the body filler. Halfway through, I realized that I really don't need to spend much time here because this is where the whole headlight assembly sits, uses these. So I shifted my focus onward. This is where I added the metal to straighten this out because it dips in a little bit. Added just a small amount of body filler there, nothing really crazy. I plugged a hole here, and so we move on to the strut shock tower fork brace thing that I had ground down and basically removed. Of course, I welded all the areas that need welding. I added a plate up here. This part wasn't too bad. It's just trial and error since I never did the body filler before. I'm pretty sure there was some seam sealer that ran along this line, or for whatever reason it's dipped in, so I added some body filler here just to straighten that out. I left this empty, and I took out the seam sealer here because I'm gonna add some fresh 3M seam sealer in there. This, as you guys know, I added the plates. This area looks like there's a lot of body filler here, and there is, but most of it's less than 4 millimeters thick. I think some areas I got close to the 6 millimeters, but very few areas. This looks like a lot of body filler from here, but it's all metal under this. I just had to add some because there was a little indent here. Wanted it to be straight. Same with this. Moving on, these holes were plugged, of course, with metal. Just added some filler on top to make it look nicer. There's a lot of little imperfections on the entire engine bay. I could spend all day, all year filling it in, but I'm just gonna send it. It doesn't really matter anymore. I need to get this car back on the road. This is where I cut the bay for the frame rail reinforcements. I haven't really touched in this area because I'm gonna be spraying this rubberized undercoating all under here, and I'm gonna do seam sealer along all this, so that's untouched for now. This is where I plugged the hole for your wiring harness. I obviously added that piece of metal, and in all these places I added metal. This is for the windshield wipers since I don't run the car in the rain. I haven't had windshield wipers for years. That had quite a bit in the left corners. This had a lot just because I wanted it to be sort of flush, because as you guys know, it indents a little. Moving on to the driver's side, I added significantly less body filler over here because a lot of these I just added metal. There wasn't really much need for it. Here there was, just like the windshield wiper motor, I had to add some just to even it out a little bit. That's where I added the plate. Surprisingly, didn't need that much filler. And on this side, I did not delete the clutch fork or grind it down, because the only reason I did it on this side is because it's very bulky on this side. I think it took up this whole area. You guys can see in your own cars. So opted to keep this side. Curious to see how it'll look, if it'll look off or whatever, but I don't really care. I'm happy with it. This side was way more refined because I started over here and then I ended over here, so there's a lot less body filler over here. Again, plug some holes there. Didn't even do anything to this headlight side because, like I had said over there, you won't even see this area, so it didn't really matter. Again, I'm gonna run seam sealer here, and that is just a brief overview of the job you may have ahead of you. I'm not really gonna film too much of using the Dolphin Glaze just because it's boring content. I'm pretty bored of this already, sanding it down and everything, so I may add one clip and then I'll show you guys the finished product. Story of my life, I'm running a little bit behind schedule. I wanted to get this all primered last night, that way it can cure, but if you're following my Instagram, you'll know I had to take my dog to the emergency room because she had a UTI. But she's feeling a lot better now, got her all medicated, but that's pretty much where I spent all of yesterday. So I stayed up till 3 a.m. working on that side and finishing this side. And luckily we're in California, so I can still spray primer later today and let it bake in this garage since it's gonna be like 103 today. We definitely have a long day ahead of us. I'm excited to get this thing painted, see how it looks, and see if all my hard work paid off. Hopefully it did. I'll let you guys be the judge of that. almost there. Everything's sanded with 320 grit. Now I'm pulling the seam sealer from the pretty much everywhere now. I'm just using a screwdriver and this multi-tool. Seems to work well, so it shouldn't be too much longer. Then I'm gonna do a final clean and primer, finally. All right, it's like a Christmas miracle. It's finally ready for some primer. Garage looks like I'm about to commit a murder, but here we go. For the primer, I use the Spray Max 2K epoxy primer in gray. This is the product number. It's a little bit more pricey, but I want to go, since I'm not gonna use the spray gun, because if I use the spray gun, I'd have to upgrade my compressor. And since I'm gonna be moving soon, it didn't make sense to buy a bunch of equipment in a garage that might be temporary. So opted for this, heard some good reviews from it. Also the seam sealer that I use, they recommend only using it on 2K products, so it worked out perfectly. Just a brief overview of it. I know there's some high spots that clearly I could see through the primer coat, which it is what it is. This is not a show car by any means. I'm building this car to drive it. I just wanted it to look better than just not pulling anything and just spraying it with the engine taped off. So I think I achieved that. I'm gonna have to blow everything out, wipe it down with the tack cloth, then I'm going to apply this seam sealer and apply it in all the seams that I ripped out pretty much along the firewall. Once I get that seam sealer on, I'm going to dust it with a little bit of primer and then do one last blowout, and then I can finally start with the paint. And for the paint, again, Spray Max 2K, this will be the top coat, white high gloss. We got all of the masking done for the seam seal, so I had never used seam sealer before, so I tested it out right here. It looked good. You can see it looks pretty solid. Masking it off so I can just keep those clean lines, as you can see. This took forever. I think I started at 8 p.m. and it's now midnight. This is gonna be a long night. You know, this is some of the things that people don't see. They see a finished build and a lot of hard work, but they don't see the time that was put into it. So this is definitely one of those times where I'm digging deep. Let's get that seam sealer applied, let it cure, then we can dust on a coat of primer over the seam seal. We can move on to finally adding the top coat and clear. Well, that sucked. The seam sealer did not go as I planned it, unfortunately. I got some false confidence because I laid this first little strip from basically here all the way up to here as like a test, and it went perfectly. Like, this is exactly how I wanted to look. It's nice and flat. I was able to smooth it out with the exception of here, but I was able to fix that. So I was like, yeah, that went well. It didn't cure very fast. I was able to do that whole section, smooth it out, and it was still tacky and formable. So I was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna tape everything off and then just do it in one fell swoop, because the seam sealer, I only had 2 nozzles and I already used one, and I found that I can't reuse it because once it's in the nozzle, it hardens after it cures. So I was like, okay, cool, I can make this work. I'll just do everything really fast and then I'll smooth it out. And that didn't go to plan. That was a stupid idea. I was trying to rush it. I wasn't able to smooth it. It cured way too fast for me. And since it cured too fast, whenever I was trying to pull the tape to get those clean lines like this, it would rip the tape. So as you can see here, there's tape under it still. And then I wasn't even able to smooth it because it was too far cured. And this just really isn't what I want it to look like. I know I could just send it because I'm gonna paint over it anyway, since this is still just the primer. It could be done, but that's not where I wanna go with this. I want to be completely happy with how it looks. As much as it pains me to say, I'm going to be removing all of it and starting over as far as the seam sealer goes. So I'm gonna have to rip it all out using, I guess, like a razor blade or something. I gotta do some more research on the best way to pull it. So it's gonna be new seam sealer. I'm gonna have to resand it down, and then I'm gonna have to reprime those areas, which it sucks, but it's part of the process. Luckily, I think I can get it done relatively quick. I already started pulling the seam sealer that night in some areas. So, little setback, which is like the story of my life here. But at least I'm learning, right? Do it in small sections, order more nozzles, don't be lazy, and you won't run into this issue. Because realistically, after I did this first test area, I should have then thought, okay, well, I need to order more nozzles, and that way I wouldn't have been rushed just to do it in one fell swoop. And me misjudging the curing time was, you know, I don't even know how I would have avoided that, but if I had more nozzles, I would have done it in smaller sections. And I could have totally just lied and just removed it and then put it in the video. I was like, oh, it looked good. Like, wow, my first attempt looks so amazing. But again, I want to be realistic for you guys if you're doing this project. Learn from my mistakes just like I am. You know, prior I was getting like really broken down about, I'm making so many mistakes. This is taking so long. But now I'm more in the mindset of, I made that mistake, I learned from it, and now I'll never make that mistake again. So it's like a new skill unlocked, I guess, and if anyone ever asks in the future, I'll be able to give them my advice so they don't run into this issue. I've kind of like grown during this build, which is funny to say. So I just need to pull it all. As you can see, I tried to pull it while it's still kind of tacky, which got on the primer, which isn't a big deal. I should just be able to sand that down with some 320 to 400 grit. Some areas I'll have to do more aggressive, probably like 80 grit, which is fine. But the majority of this, I'm just gonna run a screwdriver, razor blade, and peel it off and then sand it down. So my work is definitely cut out for me this weekend. And it sucks, but it is what it is. I gotta do it. As you can see, the tape was horrible. So I'll be running this back. This time I'm not gonna strictly use this 3M tape. This is meant for rough surfaces and automotive use. I'm gonna be using the thinner, I think it's like 1/8 thick or 1/4 thick vinyl blue 3M tape. It's meant for automotive use and getting, you know, being flexible around corners and such. And then I'll be backing it with this, so it'll go a lot quicker. That was honestly the biggest pain, was taping everything off, because this tape sucked. It was not flexible at all. But I just had the mindset, it was like, let me just finish this. I don't want to put this off another night and order some. So as you can see, I use a ton of tape, and you guys can see in the clips previous, but we got the new tape, so we'll be using that this time. Hopefully I'll be able to pump all this out this weekend, but we'll see. You know how I am with timelines. That's gonna wrap up this video. Thank you guys for watching, laughing at my mistakes, hopefully. If you have any comments or suggestions, drop it down in the comments below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you need anything urgent or some questions that you want answered, easiest way to contact me is through DMs on Instagram at Stash Garage. Take care of yourselves, take care of your family, and we'll see you in the next one, which will be this thing getting painted.